was reminded of 1408 rewatching this, with Sam Neill playing the skeptic and all. Watching this movie in 2025 really takes you back if you lived through this time. So much cigarette smoking and ballpoint pens, you know what I'm saying? Everything about this film feels like a lost art form. This is one of those films I don't grow tired with or become bored. I'm guessing I've seen it probably 5 to 7 times at this point. The story and writing of this, in my opinion, works so well, and the attention to detail for things to make sense is put in place with such accurate subtlety. Not always, but very often. It's not prevalent. What I'm talking about, it's not prevalent in our current times. The movie isn't perfect, no doubt about it, but I don't feel at any point does it drag too long. There is certainly a wild but effective choice in the score, because they blend 80s and 90s horror synth work with classic and hard rock. You know, it's a creative and bold move for its time. There is certainly a wild but effective choice in the score. It works well, and normally it's not a combination I'd favor for a film, especially one of the horror genre. I do believe Sam Neill is so skilled. Some of his quotes, though, are hilariously random.
Help you sell a few more million copies? Well, fuck that. How am I wrong?
I think it might have been Shitcase Cinema, maybe someone else on here, but anyway, they pointed it out a while back. Crazy things he was saying. But you know what's wild, as I was just saying, this movie feels like 1408 borrowed so much from it for me, or they both borrowed elsewhere. I'm aware 1408 was based off a Stephen King story, but the skeptic in a dream loop refusing to believe what they are actually experiencing is the intrigue of the character arc for me in both films. I like those repeat edits. They are fun. They're certainly unnerving. What I'm talking about is the woman in the painting on the wall, for example. Something about that 80s, 90s corporate big building office space setting, smooth shifting to the quaint, Pleasantville on the East Coast. What was it, New Hampshire, I think? A cozy Hobbs End, nestled between basically the American dream and a perfect childhood. That's always a good setting for me. It's always a good era or a good time. Obviously, a lot of scenes are very impactful and memorable in the film, which is why I'm talking about it. It's why it's called Lost Media Thoughts. And I believe it's really a good example of writing a horror movie to be on its own with no intent for a sequel or leaving too much on the table. The length of it is another thing that is appreciated, as it's a short film but appropriate for horror, but it does feel longer. But again, not a dragging film. In the Mouth of Madness is one of few films that really, I do mean really, scared me while watching the first time I watched it. How the story plays out and what John Trent and Linda Stiles go through is, for me, so well done and engaging. They really did a good job of basically making one of those paperback horror novels with monsters and crazy font for the title on the front of it be a living thing in this movie, at least for me. Because the scariest thing about the film is the feeling of it. How can such a little nice town be so mesmerizingly terrifying? Get what I'm saying? The place I come from, what I mean is where I grew up, also feels this way. But it is just a village in the desert made famous by a name change and a serial killer. So this is a part of Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, but they aren't necessary to watch as they aren't connected by story or character or really anything else except the end of the world. Still, they're good, still good stuff to check out. Anyway, I'm happy to have finally get a few thoughts of this movie off my chest. I know some others are out there. I've seen some other people talk about it. I'm always happy to hear some other opinions. I know this movie can be perceived cheeky or even at times nonsensical, not scary at all, right? I actually see and understand that, and I can also enjoy it on that level. It's one that I hope I don't forget, and I'm going to continue to try not to. Thank you for listening to Lost Media Thoughts.